joining today. This is our fifth mini symposium, Wing Mini Symposium, and welcome to everybody. We're excited to hear from both Helen and Lucy today from the UK Wing chapter. And I just wanted to, so this is Kelly Blake with the Wing Global team. I just wanted to put in a couple of plugs. So we're still accepting applications for the Future Leaders cohort. Please check out our website to put in those applications, or please recommend to a young woman in the industry that you think, or not even a young woman, a woman who would benefit from leadership training within the Wing, from the Wing website for the Future Leaders cohort. And then also we are accepting core value award nominations at this time. So if you know someone within the industry, man or woman, who deserves to receive a Wing Core Value Award, and you think does a great job representing the core values, then please also head to the website, which is womenandgeothermal.org, and have them, or you can submit a nomination for them to receive a Core Value Award. So thank you for being here. And without further ado, Lucy.
Hi, thank you very much, Kelly, and thanks for having us this afternoon, morning, depending on wherever you are. My name is Lucy Cotton. I'm the ambassador for Wing UK, and I'm going to be presenting, like Kelly said, with Helen on our committee. We're just going to show you a few of the initiatives that we've started with Wing UK. And actually, a lot of this is thanks to lockdown, because we had the time and the space in order to put things together. And we'd also like to use this opportunity to reach out to other Wing chapters and try and build a bit more communication between the Wing chapters as well. And it's not going on. Hold on. There you go. Just to set the scene, set the concept. The UK is not somewhere where you would think to look for geothermal initially, but we have a really rapidly growing industry, and it spans a whole range of technologies, from a couple of deep geothermal projects for power and heat. And I've just seen Ryan Law is on here, who's the developer of GEL, the first geothermal project to drill deep geothermal in the UK. And now there's a second one, which is the Eden project, right through to surface. So we have a whole range of applications, from hot sedimentary aquifers for direct heating to heating from coal mines. And I think someone has their microphone on, sorry. If we could just, thank you. From coal mines and maybe tin mines for district heating schemes. And the shallower resource of ground source heat pumps. So we have a whole range of technologies, and the aim of the goal of Wing UK, when it was relaunched in November, was to create a sense of community. And Claire Baxter had the role of ambassador then, and that was her one goal, to create a community within this growing industry, so that we could talk to each other and try and create the space in order to create that community. So today we'll go through the committee structure, the newsletter, our main theme of the year, which is the energy transition, which I think is important globally, the mentoring program, our communications, student engagement, our Wednesday with Wing program, collaborations, and future initiatives. So the structure of Wing is slightly left field. We have a satellite structure, as it were. So in the middle, we have the leadership team, which is the Wing UK ambassador, the convener, the treasurer, who we're still looking for. So if anyone from the UK is watching and is admin and accounting minded, please get in touch, because we're still after a treasurer, and a wingman. To us, it's really important to have a wingman on our committee, and we do have a couple, and it's proved really, really valuable. And then around that core, we have our wider committee, and members in this committee lead different initiatives. So we have the student ambassador, Helen, who's in charge of social media, someone who coordinates events, Maddie in charge of the mentoring program, a newsletter program, and our Wednesday with Wing. And hopefully in the future, maybe we'll be able to do a podcast program as well. And then around our core committee and our leadership team, we have our wider group of volunteers and members who may not have the time to put to a committee, but are really happy to stand at a stand in an event or put a slide out to Wing at the end of a presentation that they give. And Wing UK couldn't continue without everybody's involvement. So we're really thankful to all of our volunteers in whatever capacity you come. To talk about the newsletter first, when Wing UK was sort of relaunched at the UK Geothermal Symposium in 2019, it was coincided with a newsletter. And we don't do too many in a year. It takes a lot of time to put these things together, and it is a totally voluntary basis. And we understand the women and men involved have jobs and families as well. So we try to publish 3 a year. And it's just a way of improving that communication between the industry and academics in the geothermal industry. Within the newsletter, we have several different sections. We have 3 articles that are written, and for 2021, as our theme is the oil and gas energy transition, at least one of these articles will be based on that. The other articles can contain industry news or something like exciting from academia that's been discovered, and highlights from our Wednesday with Wing webinar series. We also like to include personal journeys of how our members and committee members and volunteers got into geothermal, because it can be quite a tricky industry to get into. And we had a really lovely personal journey from Joe, one of our main wingmen, about how he worked in oil and gas in BP for years, and then suddenly thought, no, I can't do this. I need to do something that's good for the environment, and switch to geothermal. So there's a lot of nice stories in there as well. We also do member profiles. We tried to showcase at least 3 members in each of our newsletters and introduce them again to the community. But another thing we do is, women aren't very good about shouting about their success. And there's so many talented women that are really high achieving within the geothermal industry. So we like to have a space in our newsletter to give them acknowledgement for what they've done. And so we encourage our members to write to us, to tell us what other people have done or what they might have done, so we can give them the acknowledgement that they deserve. With our Wednesdays with Wing, it's a monthly webinar, and it started as a social event during lockdown. Like I said, lockdown was key to helping us get Wing and our initiatives off the ground. So in lockdown, we, on a Friday night, once a month, would have a think and drink. And you could have a tea or a wine or whatever took your fancy, and come together and have just a chat to get to know each other. But we also did fun things like quizzes and that sort of thing. It wasn't technical, it was just to create that sense of community. And it was a really nice space. But as we came out of the first lockdown, it evolved into a more technically focused webinar. And so we changed the time to Wednesdays, hence Wednesday with Wing. But it provides a nice platform for industry and academia to showcase research in geothermal. And again, it fosters that community engagement. We have a whole host of different things that are talked about with Wednesday with Wing. So, for example, our last one was done by Michael Chandorian from Arup, and it was about Arup have just released a UK-wide geothermal assessment of the resource for deep geothermal, and that's really big news because it's encouraging the government to look at geothermal as a serious option, and we haven't in the past necessarily had a lot of government support. So it's a really big deal, this report, and Michael was able to shed some light on it in our last Wednesday with Wing, which was excellent. But we also do things like professional development and skill sessions. So our last skill session was led by Maddie, who is the convener in Wing UK, and she did on a presentation on how to present. because it's a skill that we as geoscientists need, and it's not necessarily taught to us at uni. We also do careers events for these Wednesday with Wing, and in July we'll be doing a careers event which involves a panel of different geothermal experts, and our members can let the panel know their questions before the session and have them answered there. So it's a good discussion. But these Wednesday with Wing webinars are attended by a global audience. They're all virtual. And again, it creates that really nice space for industry to come together with academia and talk about geothermal in the UK and what's happening. And they're fairly informal. We have fairly low numbers that attend, and so it's not intimidating. People can talk, and it's proved very, very useful and popular. Like I said, the theme of the year is the energy transition, and the UK has an enormous oil and gas-based industry in the North Sea. But we all know, I'm preaching to the converted here, this needs to change. And a lot of geothermal companies in the UK have an oil and gas department that supports them. And this is going to change, like I said. So the obvious route into geothermal is through the oil and gas industry. There's so many transferable skills. And as an example, the project that I'm working on at the moment at the Eden project, all the service companies, bar a couple, are oil and gas service companies. And it's amazing how many individuals have taken a pay cut to go into geothermal because they believe it's the right thing to do, and all their skills are oil and gas. And so you've got this drive and ambition to get into geothermal, but at the moment, not much of a vehicle to do it. So we hope that by creating space to talk about it, we can help in any way we can with this transition from oil and gas into geothermal. And as Wing, we are doing another careers event in September, which is purely aimed at the energy transition. And like I said, with the newsletter, we do at least one feature every newsletter about the energy transition. So I'm going to pass on to Helen now, who's going to talk about the mentoring program.
Thanks, Lucy. So the mentoring program is headed by Maddie, who's the convener, as Lucy's mentioned. And so she's put some things together for us to go over with you guys today. So initially, the thought for the mentoring program was put together because there's a growing interest, as Lucy's mentioned, in geothermal energy amongst university students. And we've noticed this with sort of talks and things like that, and job inquiries and career advice requests from students, and also at the career panel event that we did last year. There's also a growing interest amongst geoscientists to be part of the energy transition and the pivot from oil and gas into the geothermal sector. And so the idea is to support students with an interest in the geothermal sector in transitioning from university studies into the industry, and providing an insight and experience into the various aspects of the geothermal industry to support them when they pursue a career in the sector. This also will give them the opportunity to create links between academia and industry. So some basic details of the program. So it'll be an initial trial program to gauge the level of interest from potential mentors and mentees, and we'll monitor the progress of the program and evaluate outcomes and the success of it at the end. The initial thought is to run a 6-month program. We're hoping to kick this off sort of July time, following the exam period in the UK, and to tie in with when students start looking for jobs following their graduation. At the moment, we're thinking about 5 to 10 pairs, pairing industry representatives across all aspects of geothermal industry with students, matching the work of the industry representative with the specific area of interest of the student. And we will set a loose framework for the programme, including the initial meeting start date, end dates, and various advice, drop-in sessions and check-ins, feedback and network sessions throughout the 6 months as well. The idea would be for mentor and mentees to have regular meetings, which would include goal-setting actions, items and feedback. So the opportunity, we see this as an opportunity for students to explore and gain insight into the geothermal industry, specifically in their area of interest, and to work with mentors with great experience. And the mentors may need to set questions related to their current work project, or the student may shadow the mentor for a day at their workplace, depending on what's happening with the COVID restrictions. And that will provide the student with actual practical experience, which they can then record on their CV. Partnership would also provide students the opportunity to develop employability skills, including communication, written and analytical skills, such as presentations and conferences. And the mentor could also support the student in overseeing and advising on their CV, professional development and job applications. Next slide. So now we're going to go on to the communications. So this is sort of the area that I have a lot of input in. So the UK Twitter account was initially set up in 2015, and the number of followers has gradually grown to 591 over the past 5.5 years. Facebook and LinkedIn pages were set up with the relaunch in 2019, with Facebook has 50 members and LinkedIn has 103. The use of different social media platforms is simply down to user preference. However, based on feedback, we are aware that finding us on Twitter seems to be much easier than other platforms. And this might be down to the way we've set up the groups, and it's something that we need to have a think about. The YouTube channel was initially set up in 2020, following the launch of our Think and Drink, which is now Wednesdays with Wings. So we could record and share our presentations with the wider community who may not have made the live event. This channel is now the global channel, and to date there has been a total of 1,330 views of the various presentations. And we have presentations on there at the moment from ourselves here in the UK, USA, Turkey and Peru. We would encourage anyone who has webinar recordings to send the completed edited MP4 version to Wing Global so that we can upload and share the link with the community. Also, if you have any webinars coming up, consider recording them and sending them in. It's a really great way to share your work in individual countries with the global community and those in your home country. And we would also encourage you to use your native languages. Next slide, thanks. So I'm just going to use Twitter as an example. This graph shows the growth from the start of 2017. With this growth, we have also had a significant increase with page visits and tweet interactions. So anyone who's not familiar with Twitter and the meaning of a tweet interaction, this refers to anyone who has clicked on a tweet to read more, followed a link within the tweet, or even seen that tweet on their feed. And between the relaunch of Wing UK in 2019 and now, our interactions have varied in numbers between 3,500 to almost 12,000 per month. And these numbers do not reflect the amount of work we put in each month to our communications, but instead depend on what activities or events we might be running, the webinar guests and the topics they are talking about, and the type of hashtags we use. So really good hashtags are really good at getting across very quickly something that a topic that's going on at the time. And of course, this is really great because people are becoming aware of Wing as a global community with these numbers. Next slide. So students, our student ambassador is Hester, and she basically engages with the universities within the UK to find out more about the curriculum changes, updates, and how we might be able to assist. Currently, a lot of UK universities are updating specifically their MSc taught courses from petroleum focused to subsurface energy and the energy transition. You'll engage with students to find out more about their understanding of geothermal, the roles available to them, and identify events that we could develop to support students in their development going forward. As we've already mentioned, the 2020 Geothermal Careers Day was a real success. We had over 150 people register to join. We did have a little challenge with the platform we were using, which could only accommodate 100 users. So we have been working to identify a better platform for this year's event in July. As Lucy's mentioned, additionally this year we're also running an energy transition event in September, and this will be open to a broad spectrum of people from students through to professionals who may have started work or research in oil and gas, but want to know more about transitioning to geothermal and how their skills might be transferable across the sector. Next slide. So we find with everything we do, investing a bit of time in creating simple but effective graphics gains the most interest. So this is an example of the graphics we used to promote last year's Careers Day. And this was shared on all our social media platforms and via email. And each day for 5 days in the run up to the event, we released an individual Meet the Speakers profile. We had 5 speakers. And on the 6th day, the complete poster was released. On registration, participants were given the opportunity to submit questions, and the chat on the day was based around these questions. And the little graph there just shows us which universities had the greatest interest in the event, and it helps us think about how to further engage with other universities. This year, we hope to record the event and make it available on the YouTube channel. It is worth pointing out that we are fortunate enough to have a committee member who does not work in geothermal, but is instead a graphic designer. Something we've learned building the committee is utilize the skills, not just of your committee members, but family members and friends and things like that as well. We're happy to donate a little bit of time and the skills that may not be directly related to geothermal, so think outside of the box. Next slide. So our collaborations, we've got a couple going on at the moment, and we're working on a few more, but the 2 main ones at the moment, the UK runs a programme called Girls into Geosciences. It's an annual event for 16 to 17-year-old female students who might be considering applying to university to do an earth science degree. It gives them a 2-day taster of what to expect when attending university to do an earth science topic or other related subjects. And they get to experience lectures, hands-on lab exercises, and field trips. And this is an award-winning programme that was initially set up by the University of Plymouth, but we now have Girls into Geosciences in Scotland, Wales, and Northern Ireland as well. And we have been attending for various reasons and in various capacities for the last couple of years. Plymouth University is my alumni, and Lucy lives really close by, and Plymouth University worked on the United Downs project as well. So we have really close connections with the Girls into Geosciences programme. The other one that we've got, which is much more recent, is the Energy Group. And they're one of the specialist interest research groups of the Geological Society of London. And they've recently restructured to reflect the changing times and are working hard to ensure diversity on their committee, as well as invited speakers to all conferences. We have one of our Wing UK committee members on the Energy Group committee, which is myself. And we also have several of our active wing men on the committee as well. Next slide, please. And finally, our future initiatives. So we've got a couple of ideas that we're hoping to launch later this year and early next year. And some of them are quite big projects, so they're taking a bit of time. So we have a day in the life, which will be a blog series, have contributions by women from around the world, from all aspects of the geothermal industry and all walks of life. They'll be encouraged to share their experiences of working in the sector, talk about their role and how they got there, the challenges they have faced and how they've overcome them. The Geothermal 101 vlog series will be aimed at school-age children up to first-year undergrads who are starting to consider their careers and select subjects to study. The content will be short video interviews and presentations by geothermal professionals about geothermal and the many different roles in the geothermal sector. And the content will be audience appropriate. Lucy's already mentioned the geothermal podcast, which will look to explore geothermal in a relaxed and engaging manner with contributions from the UK and beyond. And finally, our Women In conference will allow for women to present work, network and attend workshops that are both technical or scientific based, but also with an equality, diversity and inclusion aspect to them. Wing UK are gradually reaching out to all of the women in organisations to gain interest. So there's women in isotopes, women in science, women in engineering, all sorts of things like that. And there's so many crossovers with many of these subjects that we're hoping to get some interest and put something together in the near future. Next slide. So just a quick few thank yous. So thank you to all of you who've joined us today. We hope you found this insightful. Maybe you have some great ideas of your own that you'd want to go forward with now. Thank you to our UK committee, all of whom have contributed to today's presentation. And thank you to the committee for their continued drive, commitment, passion and enthusiasm. And thank you to our wider community of volunteers who have all donated time to present for us, join a panel event and promote Wing at every opportunity they can. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Great. Well, thank you guys. That was amazing, Lucy and Helen. Thank you for sharing. I know that I have a couple of, I guess, more comments than questions, but the mentorship initiative sounds amazing. I'm really interested to hear more about how that progresses and how that goes for you guys. So that maybe we can pass it along to you all to manage for Global Wing. We'll see, crossing my fingers. And then I think it's a great idea to have a student ambassador, a specific student ambassador. I think that's an amazing idea. And I'm curious, how has that been going? How has it been working for you? Is that something that's new, or how has that been for you all?
I guess it started sort of December time that we thought, oh, we need to have someone specific for it. At the moment, our only student things have been the careers day that we're doing in July and the skills session. But it is useful to have someone that is designated to reach out to all the universities and inform them. And actually, Hester is at uni at the moment doing her master's, so she's much more integrated within that life, which is also a bonus. But yeah, it's useful to have that person who's designated to do it.
Yeah, she's also started reaching out. So the Geological Society that I mentioned has an early careers network. So she's reaching out with them to see what they're doing with students and whether we can sort of work together, whether there's an overlap, whether we can share the workload, things like that as well.
That's amazing. Great. And I will mention that the mini symposium idea was a complete ripoff of what the UK team was doing in 2020. I think that from my perspective, they were getting great attendance, and it was a very useful platform. And so it was very much a complete ripoff of what they were doing with their initiatives on Fridays during the lockdown that we were all experiencing in 2020. So thank you guys for continuing to think outside the box. I think you're doing an awesome job doing just that. So brava, as Amelia put in the chat.
Thank you. Yeah.
So I didn't see any other questions, I don't think, in the chat. I'll double check. Oh, it does look like. So a question from Diana. So unemployed and experienced professionals considering a transition from mining or oil and gas to geothermal are welcome to those career events, or are they limited to only students and recent graduates? Good question.
Absolutely, they're welcome. I think it's a tricky time for a lot of people at the moment, isn't it? And yeah, the sector's been undergoing a lot of cuts, and anything that we can do to help people find something that that they want to pursue, then yeah, game on. So yeah, it's open to anybody, not just students.
Great, thanks. And I'll put in a plug as Helen did for Twitter, as well as the other social medias. Usually Andy Blair from New Zealand, as well as others on the social media pages are usually pretty good about posting when there's job opportunities. So if you search the hashtag Wing Jobs, I believe it is, then yeah, on LinkedIn, on Facebook, on Twitter, you should be able to find all the postings that have that hashtag, and hopefully and it seems to me that there seems to be a lot of opportunity right now in the geothermal sector. There's a lot of money coming in, so a lot. But if you about it or are looking for opportunities and having trouble finding them, please reach out and we'll make sure that you're seeing those posts. All right, let's see if we have any others. So we are interested. Great. So Mohammed asked about geothermal power from oil and gas fields in Iran. I don't know if Lucy or Helen, if you guys in your energy transition topic, if that's something you guys were going to be discussing in the next year or so, taking the actual oil and gas maybe hot wells in the oil and gas fields or hot water that they have and harnessing geothermal power. Was that something you guys were going to discuss? Or maybe a topic suggestion, I guess, at this point?
Well, I guess, I mean, there's certainly sort of in and around the UK oil and gas and sort of our offshore wells, and we're hearing a lot about it in sort of Alberta and Canada as well. There is a lot of awareness of redundant oil and gas wells and repurposing that infrastructure for not just geothermal, but a range of subsurface energy. So whether that's geothermal or carbon capture, things like that. I guess eventually it will expand into Iran and the Iranian infrastructure there as well. Lucy, I'm academia as opposed to industry, I guess, at the moment. I don't know whether you've heard anything or when you've been speaking to the Iranian chapter, whether they've said anything yet.
I don't know anything specific, but I think it would be really good if Mohammed, you wanted to maybe contribute to the newsletter or maybe a Wednesday with Wing and talk about this, because it's a really interesting topic. And I know when we talked to the Iranian chapter before, they were struggling to get their sort of mark on the map, and maybe this would help do that. If that's some way we can help, then please feel free to reach out.
Thanks. All right, we have a couple more if you guys can stick around.
Yeah, sure.
So Karen asked if you've decided on a platform for the mentoring, or if there's going to be a way for maybe the mentors and the mentees to connect, or is it really going to be more driven by that mentor-mentee relationship to interact?
So I think the initial idea that Maddie had is we would have, so this is Maddie's baby. She's really, really passionate about this, reflecting on her own experiences when she was at university and how she felt a mentorship program within the geothermal sector was a little bit lackluster, let's say, certainly here within the UK anyway. And her initial idea is to have sort of almost like a virtual networking event where the mentors and the mentees can all come along. There'll be very much initially a general chat to find out sort of all about each other, what people's interests are, what our mentors' specialist areas are. So the students can then sort of say, well, I'd like to be paired up with that person and things like that. Maddie's been putting together some documentation that would help support both mentors and mentees, and the committee members have then sort of had a little bit of input, helped her structure things a little bit, but she's really taken the lead on that. And that those documents will be used by the mentors and mentees so they can have an idea of what is expected of them, how much work might be required and things like that. But it will also be down to individual mentor-mentee partnerships to meet up and discuss ideas and projects. And the mentors might put together little work projects for the mentees to do, attend for a day at their workplace, COVID allowing, and things like that. And so we would then sort of almost take a sort of a step back and just be there to support or maybe troubleshoot if that happens, restructure things if things aren't working out. It's going to be a bit of a learning curve for us. But that's the starting idea. I don't know if you want to expand a bit more, Lucy, if Maddie's sort of talked to you more about it.
I think it's early days. It's something that we want to pursue this year, but it's early days.